Hello. Today I'm going to be going over some strategies for applying AI tools in teaching. The three tools that I'll be reviewing today are Wondershare Presentory, Canva, and Murf.ai. Wondershare Presentory AI, it's an AI-driven presentation tool that creates a virtually interactive presentation. It formulates presentation structures and core content. It inputs keywords, select content type, and specific usage scenario. The AI generates a presentation outline based on the selections. You can then edit your outline and choose a style, and then a presentation is generated after choices are finalized. And this is just a screenshot of kind of how to get started. So you generate the presentation, you edit it, you record, and then you can upload your presentation. Ooh, wrong way. And so in the course that I teach, it's the orientation to teaching. And one of the things that I'm trying to get the students to do is start considering, future teaching strategies. And so specifically for orientation to teaching, I want to have them create a presentation about their classroom and their teaching philosophy to include on their website to introduce themselves to parents. Just a kind of way to, get to know them, especially as aspiring teachers. And so this would include classroom pictures, credentials, licensure areas. It's going to hopefully promote some interactions with parents, and then also kind of introduce themselves with a very professional face. Some of the challenges are the cost. It can be very expensive based on how complex it is. And then also the ethical considerations. You've always got privacy and security, intellectual property concerns, AI content bias, and then the authenticity and transparency of, who created this work. The next tool I'll be discussing is Canva AI, which is another presentation tool that creates visually interactive presentations with the the presentation structures and core content. You input words, select content type, usage scenarios, and it will generate a presentation based on these selections. So using Canva in the teaching strategy, you can deliver engaging lessons. There are the PowerPoint, instead of using PowerPoint, there's videos, animation, clickable links. The Magic Design creates editable presentations. It's very interactive. There's a digital whiteboard for mind mapping. Students can create digital portfolios. They can drag and drop activities with the interactive notebooks. They can design flashcards and quizzes. There's digital badges to celebrate achievements. There's a lot of ways to give that professional graphic design touch without having to have those skills. Also in classroom management, you can create graphic-based instructions, consistent branding, consistent themes. It's easy to communicate with the customizable templates. You can come up with a theme, and there are a million templates to go along with that. And then it links directly to platforms like Google Classroom, Schoology, Teams, and there's about 80,000 free resources. So this is the example of the mind mapping that is possible with Canva, and for especially aspiring teachers, younger teachers, the younger grades, this is great to show different interactions and how topics are related. The last AI technology tool that I'm going to be discussing is Murf.ai, and this turns text into speech. So you have 200 voices, 15 languages, 35 accents, and it syncs voice with presentations and videos. You can integrate it with Canva, PowerPoint, Adobe. It is very, very easily integrated into a lot of different media. So the practical application. For using something like Murf.ai, where you are able to give audio instructions in orientation to, for example, the kindergartners, incorporate adding audio to read instructions to emerging readers. They can follow along and start developing fluency. All words printed are said aloud. And the activity I have with this one is one of my favorite books. It's The Giving Tree. And so you will find a use Murf. They'll find a kindergarten level worksheet, use Murf AI to turn this into an activity for students to work on independently. They can replay the instructions, have the choices read to them, and so instead of the teacher having to read everybody's instructions, you have something doing it already. In first grade, when we start, trying to, become better readers, for English language learners, translate a short story written in English into the student's native language. They read English and they hear the other language, and they're going to hopefully start making those connections with English. And so back to my favorite book, they'll use The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And so the teachers can pick a book. Murf AI translates the text to audio. The English language learners will then listen to the story in their native language, follow along. You can choose the correct accent, and eventually to get the students to recognize and hear English. Along those lines, there are always challenges and ethical considerations. And one of those things, when challenges and ethical considerations with the 3Media, I actually put it into the Google AI, which is this little, I went ahead and put a disclaimer. The content in this table was largely generated by inputting challenges of and ethical considerations for each of the different media. I took the responses and formatted them into a table with key points. So the Wondershare presentry, one of the ethical considerations is misinformation. It can be easy to make deep fakes, and it can be very hard to tell the difference. There's also a lot of data being collected, and it's important to know where it's stored, how it's used, who is using it. There's always some plagiarism, and then there's always are you disclosing that you're using AI? So with Canva, there is the option to control if your content is used to train AI, but there's also some copyright infringement. Who owns the content? And then one of the protections Canva has is Canva Shield. It scans for inappropriate content, manages the data usage, and enhanced privacy controls. And then with Murf AI, it requires the consent of human actors. These artists are offered royalties, so the more your voice is used, the more money you make, and they have a zero tolerance policy for deepfakes, so they are at least aware of that. Some of the challenges with these tools, and it seems to be a pretty common theme with Wondershare Presentry. Sometimes there's some lacking in depth, and rewriting is required. Some of the cost and export issues, a lot of the features are locked behind the subscription tiers, and you have to pay for a certain number of credits to be able to use the tools. And then it's kind of sluggish. With Canva, there is some poor text rendering on the images. There's a low resolution output. Sometimes it can be limited customization. The results can be repetitive. There are some limitations, and the magic tool can sometimes leave messy edges, which I have experienced before in trying to get it to create an image for me. It struggles with anything, like it's kind of messy. And then lastly, for Murf AI, it is expensive for occasional users. The high-end features are only available with the most expensive tier, and there is still some complaint about some of the actors sound robotic. They may lack the emotional depth. They struggle with pronunciation. And then some of the software is still lacking. But overall, I feel like these 3 tools are great for a teacher to have in their toolkit, especially knowing that it is a very high-tech world and there are a lot of different technologies. So thanks for listening.